Today, we're going to learn all about making challah. Hey everyone, it's Dora from flippinghousesandpancakes.com, and we are going to do another episode of Foundations, learning cooking skills one recipe at a time. We are going to do challah baking today. This is going to be the basic technique of how you make any bread. Sourdough is a little different, so, think about that. There are some differences in each type of bread, but a lot of the basics are going to be here. So if you're making a regular loaf of bread, if you're making a French bread, a lot of the basics are what we're going to be doing today. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with a nice warm water. Now I have 5 3/4 cups of warm water in this bowl. I already warmed it up. I used my microwave. You don't want boiling water. You don't want lukewarm water. You want where it does feel hot when you stick your finger in it. Yes, if you are a cook that's been cooking for a long time, you'll be able to leave your finger in there a little longer than if you are a brand new cook. But you want it really nice and warm. We are going to activate our yeast. I have dry active yeast here. We are going to get our yeast bubbling. We're going to proof it. Proofing yeast is a technique where we give it some warm water, we give it a little sugar, and we get that yeast to act up and to get busy, and that we know that our yeast is working. You don't want to go through the whole dough making process and then your bread doesn't rise because the yeast was bad. So, also dry active yeast, once it's open, always store it in the refrigerator, okay? All right, I'm going to put 7 tablespoons. This is a 5-pound batch that I'm making. If you want a smaller batch, definitely. I have a smaller version of this in my cookbook, but I am making a really, really large batch today. Okay, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And yes, I regularly forget what number I'm at. Does that happen to everybody else? Where you're adding your ingredients in and you forget what you got to? Okay, maybe it's just me. All right, so I've got my warm water, I've got my yeast, and now I'm going to add the food for the yeast, which is sugar. I'm going to add only a 1/2 cup at first. I'm going to do a 1.5 cups, but I'll start with just the first 1/2 cup, kind of trying to make sure all the yeast is coated. It doesn't really matter because I'm going to stick my finger. You could use a spoon. I'm just going to stick my finger in here for right now and stir it all up. I want to make sure all the yeast is wet. Okay, you can use a spoon and absolutely wash your hands first before you do this. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit, and we're going to have the yeast bloom and proof. If it turns all nice and yeasty and foamy, and I'll show you what that looks like, then it's ready to be used. So I'm going to put the camera right here so you can see. Okay, you can see how nice and fluffy, I guess you could say, the yeast has become. So this yeast is proofed. This is going to make a beautiful challah when we do it, because it's going to rise even more. So now it's time to put the rest of the ingredients in and get this dough going. Okay, the first thing is that something may have happened off screen and I am now in a different shirt. Don't ask. It's fine. Everything's good. We're going to continue to make our challah. We proofed the yeast. We had our water, 1/2 cup of sugar, and our yeast in here. We proofed it. The yeast looks all nice and fluffy. And now we're going to put the rest of the ingredients in. So because I'm making a 5-pound challah, which requires approximately 18 cups of flour. This is a very large batch. This will make 8 large challahs for me. If you don't need that much, again, in my cookbook, there's a smaller version of this. I'm also making a water challah today because we are Sephardi. My husband is Sephardi. We don't eat egg challah. If you want an egg challah recipe, there actually is one in my cookbook. It is my friend Elena Tall's recipe. So you can find that one in my cookbook as well. But this is 5-pound water challah recipe. All right, so we add half a cup of sugar. We're gonna add another whole cup of sugar into here. I'm gonna put it straight into the bowl. Just like to spread out my ingredients a little bit, but we're gonna mix it. I'm gonna mix it by hand. I do not have a mixer that will mix this, not by hand. I don't have a mixer that will hold this much dough, but for my smaller batch, I definitely use my stand mixer. I'm gonna put 1.5 cups of oil as well. I am using avocado oil. You can use any really lightly flavored oil that you want. You could even use olive oil if you really like the flavor, but I don't. Okay, but I'm using avocado oil today. All right, so that was 1.5 cups of oil. Just make sure you get everything out of that. You want all that nice oil in there. Okay, we're gonna do 2 heaping tablespoons of salt. Heaping, okay guys? Heaping tablespoons of salt. 2 heaping tablespoons of salt. See how it's heaping? It's piled up a little bit. However much will fit in that scoop, okay? All right, 2 heaping tablespoons of salt. I usually like, this gets messy. Could use a spoon if you want. I don't mind sticking my finger in. I'm gonna give it all a little stir, kind of get the ingredients all mixed well together. And yes, I am stirring it right now with 1 finger. Should grab a paper towel. Hold on. I'm gonna need to wipe my finger off. I have paper towels right here. There we go. Okay. Now we have to start adding the flour. And this is the part where I usually lose track of how many cups I put in. But we are putting in 18 cups of flour approximately. At the last half cup, we'll wait and see if it really needs to go in there. And I'm gonna shake my flour off like that. I want it to be nice and light in my cup. If your flour is really heavy, you might end up with too much flour, okay? The other thing to think about, well, I guess one of the ways to make it is I actually shook my container ahead of time, and then I shake my measuring cup also to clear off any, like I don't pack it down like you would a brown sugar, okay? I don't even scrape it across because I want it to be super lightweight. So I give it a shake to level it off, okay? You could also put this through a sifter. This is pre-sifted, but you could put it through a sifter if you want, okay? That's 1. So I'm gonna kind of lighten it already like that, and then 2. Gonna go about to 9, and then give it a little mix. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. And 9. Now I'm stopping at 9 because I'll remember that that's my halfway point, and that helps me not lose track of my scoops as much when I'm doing my smaller batch. It only has 8 cups of flour. I stop at 4, mix it, and then I continue the rest of it. This will be messy, but I like to kind of get the dough started. And I'm using bread flour right now. You could use all-purpose flour. That is fine. I used that for years. The bread flour is ground a little finer, and it really, really makes a beautiful loaf of bread. Just keep in mind that it also, don't worry, pay no attention to the fact that somebody walked in my house. It's fine. It also can be really, really heavy if you're not careful. So you want to make sure that your when you measure it, it's really light. Okay, just scrape off my finger like that. And I'll give you a closer look as to what my dough looks like with half of the flour in it. All right, this is the dough with half of the flour in it. You can see it's nice and sticky, but it's definitely not shapeable yet. Are you ready? Let's put the rest of the flour in. I'm actually gonna take my container. I'm going to shake it one more time. So we get a lot of nice air in that flour, and that is gonna help me have a lighter dough. Remember, we don't want it packed down heavily. It's gonna help me get a nice light cup of flour. You could also weigh your recipe if you really, really want to. And I know professional bakers are going to weigh this, but most of the rest of us home bakers are not. So I'm just telling you how to do it without weighing it. Okay, we did 9, 10, 11. This is number 11. I will get lost. I will lose track. 12. That was wrong. That's 13. You see how I started at 9 again? No. 13. Okay. 14. Uh-oh. 15. 16, and my hot water urn turned on to make a lot of noise. 17. Now the 18th cup is the tricky one, and look at that. I'm almost done because my container actually holds about 5 pounds of flour right here. Okay, my 18th cup, I'm gonna put about half of it in, and we're gonna see if we need the rest of it, okay? I'm gonna reach in. This part gets messy. If you wanna do it with a spoon, absolutely do it with a spoon, but you could also just pretend you're a kid and just really enjoy it, okay? I'm gonna reach in, trying to keep my hands as dry as possible, because it's gonna make shaping my dough and kneading my dough a little neater and a little cleaner. Okay. And we're just gonna gently fold it up, folding it, putting flour and liquid, trying to get all that flour mixed in until we turn up a dough. Okay. And you notice I'm starting to fold my dough like this. Fold and pull it toward you. Okay, and we're just mixing in all that flour into that moisture. We want to scoop up all of our flour and get it absorbed. Okay. Oh, it's looking really nice. Feels really nice. Notice how it's turning into a dough. Can you tell? And what I'm going to do in a minute is that I actually prefer to knead on my countertop. I know everything is nice and contained in my bowl right now, but I really enjoy kneading on my countertop. So what I'm going to do in a minute is flip all this out. Don't worry, the counter is clean. Wipe it down. If you wipe your counter down with a chemical before you flip your food out onto it, wipe it down again with just water. Make sure you don't get those chemicals in your food. Okay? All right. This looks like it's ready to go on the counter and be kneaded. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you behind me so you can see the kneading process. You can watch how the dough improves. Okay? So we're going to flip it out. I'm going to move the camera so you can see how this turns out. All right, so far I haven't kneaded the extra half cup of flour. I've only got 17 and a half in here. Still is good for making a bracha, if you know what I'm talking about. We make a bracha if we make a 5 pound, we make a special blessing if we make a 5 pound batch of challah dough. And this will still be enough flour because probably by weight it was just the right amount, okay? What we're gonna do is we're gonna start to knead this dough, and I'm gonna pull it toward me, push it away with the palms of my hand, and turn it. Pull it toward me, push it away, turn it a quarter of a circle. Pull it toward me, push it away, turn it. Pull it toward me, push it away, turn it. And keep doing that. If I do it over and over again, now this process is going to take a good few minutes. If it gets sticky, it could take 5-10 minutes. If it gets too sticky, we're going to add, see how it's getting sticky. You see that? We might add a little bit of that flour. We don't want to make our dough too heavy. We don't want to add too much flour, but if it gets sticky, we're going to add some. And sometimes I'll add some by simply doing this. I just put a little bit on my hands. Solves my stickiness and it gets absorbed into the dough. Okay, as opposed to trying to just pour flour everywhere. All right, I'm going to speed up this process and we're going to see how this dough looks when it's ready. All right, we got the challah dough. It's all ready. You can see it formed a nice smooth top here. Okay. Nice and smooth and ready to rise. So let's move on to our next step. Okay. So now that we've gotten our dough kneaded, and again, if you're doing a smaller batch and you can do it in a mixer, you absolutely could do it. Keep going until it reaches this nice smooth consistency. It should pull all the way away from the sides of the bowl. If you're kneading it in a bowl or in a mixer, and it should become nice and smooth, or else you haven't lengthened the strands of gluten in your flour enough, and then your bread will break and crack instead of rising beautifully when you put it in that hot oven. All right, I have a floured bowl here, same bowl that I mixed it in. I'm gonna place it in here. I'm gonna cover it with a towel. We're gonna let it sit in my a little too warm kitchen. It's a very hot day today. We're gonna let it rise until it's doubled in size. So it looks like this right now. When we come back, it's gonna be up here, okay? We'll come back when the dough is ready to be shaped. Okay guys, my challah is nice and risen. Check it out. Ta-da! I actually already pinched off a piece and made my bracha. So I'm gonna put that aside to be burnt later. And we are going to get started shaping the challahs. But the first thing that we have to do before we shape the challah is take a little bit of aggression out on it. We're going to punch our challah down. That's like one of the best parts. All right, I'm going to dump this challah out. We're going to cut it up and we're going to start shaping it. I'm going to put you right here so you can see what I'm doing. Now, today I'm actually making this challah. I'm going to make 2 big challahs. And the rest of these challahs are going to become rolls. I need 36 rolls. So we're going to turn those into rolls. All right, but I'm going to cut this into 8 because this recipe makes approximately 8 big challahs. I'm going to cut it into 8 so I get my chunks. Oi! That's some serious dough, you guys. And yes, you could weigh it so they're exactly the same. I didn't do that. It's really going to be okay. Okay. What I'm going to do is I think I'm going to cover those. The ones that I'm not using, they can stay covered. And we're going to work on this. So the first one we're going to do is a regular 3-braid challah. 1, 2, 3 pieces. I'm going to use my counter. I'm going to use my hands. I push down and roll it and spread it. You see? Use my hands to push it and spread it apart. Okay, and we're going to roll the first piece. That's 1. And we're going to roll the second piece. That's 2. And we'll roll the third piece. Okay, there we go. Basic braid, and then pinch them together at the top. I do the right and the left. I'm going to keep swapping them, bringing them to the middle, just like a regular braid, the same way you would braid your hair. Okay, we're going to pinch on the ends. Do a pinch. It's going to get tucked under. And we're going to put that on a tray so it can rise. I'm going to put a baking pan with some parchment paper on it. We're going to rise these challahs just like. All right, the next one I'm going to do is a classic 6-braid challah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces this time. So we are going to do the same technique to roll them out. We want them to be a little skinnier this time. Okay, we've got 6 strands. So we're going to roll the 6 strands out. Just like that. 1, 2. 3. And you can put some effort into this. Making challah really builds amazing arm muscles. So don't be afraid to do it. Also, again, I didn't measure my strands. You can get everything exactly equal if you want to make the effort to measure everything. But I'm a home baker, right? I'm not a professional baker, so I'm not going to be worried about it. It'll still look and taste amazing. All right, we've got 6 strands. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to pinch them up here at the top. I'm going to take the 2 outer strands and crisscross them. One goes to the side and one comes down in between, right in the center of the other 2. See 2, 2, and the one that went across. All right. The trick to the basic 6-strand challah is that we're going to keep holding onto one piece. This piece we're holding, okay? I'm going to take the one next to it. I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to bring the piece that I was holding and put it down in the middle. Got it? I'm still holding this piece. Don't let go. Take the one next to it, bring it across, and bring that piece that you were holding down to the middle. Do you see what I'm doing? There's a little pattern here. Still holding it. Pick the piece up that's next to it, bring it across, bring that one down to the middle. Pick it up, bring it back down to the middle. So I'm still holding it. Pick the next one up, bring it across, bring that one down to the middle. Pick it up, across, just separate these out a little bit. Down to the middle, pick it up, across, pick it up, across, pick it up, across. You get the idea. And when we get to the end, we are going to tuck them under. We are going to pinch everything together at the ends and tuck those ends in underneath. And look at that. A 6-braid challah. Beautiful. I'm going to actually take I need to go grab a second towel. I'm going to take this towel. I'm going to cover these. They're going to do their thing. And now it's time for me to make a lot of rolls. I'm making 36 rolls today. I'm going to cut each one of my chunks into 6 pieces. So that should be good. Are they exactly even? Probably not. But that'll be okay. Okay. So we're going to do, again, we're going to roll out. Roll, 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 roll. Make it nice and long because we're going to wrap it around itself. Tuck it under like a knot. Okay, and then I'm going to bring it back underneath itself. Ta-da! Do you see that? Pretty roll. All right, this one is going to go into a baking pan. These are going to hopefully rise up and make a beautiful dome. Let me spray them. These are actually brand new pans I bought yesterday just for this. Very excited. I had dairy pans, I had meat pans, muffin tins, and now I'm going to have my parve ones. It was very exciting. I'm going to do this. I'm going to fill this. I'm going to fill 3 of these. I'll do it one more time just so you saw what I did. I'll make my 36 rolls. I'm going to cover everything and let it all rise. Okay, remember, making a knot. Here's my knot. And just connecting those pieces behind there. Right, I just attach the two ends just like that. And there we go. Beautiful, right into there. Okay, we'll come back after they've all been shaped and rose for about another half an hour until they double in size again. All right, my challahs have risen. They look beautiful. Now it's time to get them ready to go in the oven. My oven is set on 350 degrees. It's already preheated. For one smaller batch of challah, I only use 1 egg, but this is a very large batch, so I've got 2 eggs in here. I'm going to beat them. Kind of homogenize them a little bit here. I'm going to beat my eggs up a little bit, and we're going to brush the tops of the challah. Remember, I have a water challah here. There's no egg inside my challah, but I am going to brush the tops of the challahs with this beaten egg and a pastry brush. We're going to do that now. Oh, you guys, these are gonna be so beautiful. This egg wash is just gonna help give it that really nice, dark, glossy look on top of my crust. You could also use, I know people who do like a combination of honey and water. You could water the egg down as well if you needed to. But we're going for that nice, beautiful, make a mess here. Make a little mess on my thing. There we go. Nice, beautiful crust on our challah. And you can put these in the oven plain and you'll just have that plain crust. You could put poppy seed. You can put, you can top it with everything bagel seasoning. That comes out really delicious. I have 2 more trays like this, by the way. This is only 12 of my 36 rolls. Today, I'm going to use sesame. So I'm actually going to leave the big challahs plain, but I'm going to put sesame right over the top of these rolls right here. I think that will just give them an extra pretty look as they bake. Okay, now keep in mind when you put these in your oven, they'll grow more. This is not the end of their growing. They will grow more than this, and I will show you what that looks like when we come back. They look gorgeous, golden brown, and one of the ways to know if your challah is ready to come out of the oven is you're going to lean in and you're going to thump on it. Can you hear that? If it has that sound, kind of like a really nicely pumped basketball or like a nice ripe watermelon, that's how you know your challah is cooked fully in the middle. Now you should just know, I have a convection setting. I always forget to use it. If you're using a regular oven, you're going to get the best evenly cooked challahs if you swap shelves. So I start these on the bottom rack and these on the top, and halfway through the baking I switch them gently. That way I know the bottoms of my challahs are nicely cooked and so are the tops. You don't want to end up where like the bottom is like smushy and gross. Okay, one more tip before we finish this. When you make your challahs and you take them out and they are all nice and hot and finished, you want to take them off of the pans that they're resting on. Either if you have a cooling tray like you would use for cookies, carefully move your challahs to the cooking tray. The other thing you could do is take that same towel, and this is what I usually do, take the same towel that you used to cover your dough before, and you're gonna pull your challahs out. Look at that, how beautiful is that roll? We're gonna pull them out. We're gonna place them on the towel to cool down. If you leave them in the pans or on the trays that they're on right now, that they were in the oven, as they cool, they're going to have some condensed moisture on the bottom, and you might end up with a soggy bottom for your challah. Nobody wants a soggy bottom, right? Okay, since nobody wants a soggy bottom, we're gonna remove our challahs and put them either on a cooling rack or on a towel to finish cooling. If you have a dog in the room, like I do right now, I tend to flip one end of the towel up over the side so he knows that it is not for him to come sniffing by. Okay, that's it. That's how you make a challah. I'm gonna show you an up-close view of how beautiful they turned out. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned a lot of lessons. Remember, things like proofing your yeast, kneading your dough, getting that nice smooth consistency, rising, punching down, and braiding. Those are all techniques. And also, the thumping one. Those are all techniques that you can use in any kind of bread that you're making, pretty much, or at least most basic breads. Those are all things you need to know to make bread, and of course, to make challah. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you want me to make more videos like this, please make sure to subscribe to my channel, hit the bell for notifications so you find out every time I upload a new video. And as always, check out my website, flippinghousedandpancakes.com, where you can find my cookbook. You can also find it on Amazon. You can find my cookbook that has the smaller version of this recipe. You can also find my new recipe notebooks. So if you just wanted to write down the recipe that I told you during this video, you'll have a perfect notebook to write it in, flippinghousedandpancakes.com.